let's just start recording. So welcome to Debbie, welcome to everyone else that's joined us. We have lots of people that have registered for the call, but this particular Zoom one, Debbie, is in the morning here in Perth time. And so, you know, there are a number of people that want to hear everything you have to say and will definitely be listening to a replay. But we're so thankful to, for you, making the time to come and have a chat to us about, vibration plate usage. We had an awareness day last month during June for Lipoedema Awareness Month, and we had a number of people ask questions about vibration plates and how they can incorporate that into their everyday regime. So, it was perfect that we'd already chatted before that about catching up, but now we had some questions from our group, which I've sent through to you. But I think you're going to start and just give us a bit of an overall insight into how to have this work.
Well, and it's, explaining a vibration machine to the average person is as simple as trying to explain, and I know I'm going to say it wrong because I don't have the accent, but I'll say lipedema. But it's one of those things, we know vibration machines and lipedema are probably a lot more common, or should be. But there's this lag in the medical understanding and application of the plates. So long before I knew what a fat disorder was, and I'll explain that term because I take more grief for the name of my group over anything else. I've been duking it out with doctors and scientists about vibration machines and that they're not going to shatter their bones. And there's been a lot of misunderstanding. There's been a lot of shaming. There's been a lot of disagreement in the medical community. And when I met the lipedema community, it's like we were kind of cut from the same cloth. So I'm used to advocating for doctors. I'm used to saying, no, no, no. I'm used to them not reading. I'm used to nicknames. And, how do a lot of people look at me and think that I'm this fitness guru. I got into these machines 16 years ago. I was fat. I was 200 pounds. I walk around today at about 125. I love pounds because you guys use the same term in centimeters. You guys talk the same language as opposed to my folks in the States. But I was around 30 and I went into a doctor's office and was basically told, well, that you're old and you're fat and you need a knee replacement. Was when this sort of all started. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I was active my whole life, never really exercised for purpose. I was a bigger girl with a big voice. And so I had a pity party for a couple of years and I ate and I got fatter. And I just found it impossible that, surgery was my only option. So like many of you, I got on this shaky machine at a friend's house. Her shaky machine in today's world would be worth about 16,000 US. It's a machine called a Vibragem. Anybody that's been playing with vibration plates for a long time in your part of the woods would know of a power plate. Power plate is what most people in Australia call a vibration machine. You don't call it a vibration machine, you call it a power plate. Kind of like Kleenex. It's a tissue, but we associate it with the brand name because they've done good marketing. I'll get into what kind of machine that is here in a little bit, but the vast majority of people in today's world had the same experience I did. I tried this thing, I survived. My knee didn't hurt the next day. My thighs were a little sore. Like I tried a couple squats, but and then without a clue or any background at all, I bought 4 of these damn things and I opened a studio in my small town. 16 years later, I'm probably still years ahead of the understanding, but I only have exposure at that time to the medical grade, the medical devices, the science. 16 years later, we live in an environment where there's lots of machines. I did a little research because brand names there, and I know a few people might have recommendations when we get to or want some recommendations. Most machines out there, when I get into machine types, are the same. Most of us aren't spending $16,000 to $20,000 on a machine. But a lot of this community gravitates towards the technology for one very big reason. And Carrie, any of you that have ever watched any of my lives, you know, ramble. So I tried to make notes tonight, and it was based on a lot of the feedback that you guys gave, Carrie. So thank you. But I wanted to sort of simplify. You know, there's so many things that you guys have to keep track of for your self-care and your journaling and everything else. I want this to be something that's not only simple, but I want it to be your go-to. I want it to be something that you enjoy doing. And if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to do it anyways. So there is no perfect path to success. So how does a vibration machine help with lipedema and lymphedema? And this is, and I know I'm saying it wrong, lipoedema. You know, that's one of the hurdles right there is it spelt differently by the scientists. So, you know, it's an uphill battle to begin with. But the common thing between those two conditions and all fat disorders is these machines have super massive capacity to move lymph and circulation. So even if you are in a really, really dark, very immobile place, lots of pain, you know, don't think of it necessarily as an exercise thing. The number one reason people join my page or are looking at a machine is because they just need to get some circulation and some lymph going. A machine can be self-care and it can be fitness. I'm going to get into a really short demo, but it's doable is the big. There's more people that can use a vibration machine and gain some type of benefit regardless of where physically you're coming from than anything else I've seen on the planet. So where it gets complicated is how you want to or need to use it for you. And if you were all exactly the same, we wouldn't need groups and talks like this, really, because there'd be a book and we could just go buy it at the store. So the main reason is the lymph and the circulation. Secondary, there's lots, but I tried to simplify this again. Secondary reasons, and I would say what I try to encourage you use it for first is to manage your symptoms. Things like reducing pain, swelling. You know, these are obviously, if we're moving circulation and lymph, these are associated benefits, but the severity of the symptoms vary not only between you guys, but day to day. You know, today might be a good day and tomorrow might not be a so good day. So I want you to understand you can use this tool and modify how you use it to fit the day. And hopefully you'll have more of them. So the secondary thing is managing symptoms, the pain, the swelling, boosting energy. When you're in pain all the time, you don't have any. Improving your balance and your stability. I don't talk about that in my group as much as I should, because we're dealing with a different set of symptoms. But in my cerebral palsy support group, half my therapists are using these things for a minute or two before they do their therapy sessions, just to get the kids more stable. You know, 30 seconds to a minute. So if you're heading out the door and you tend to walk into walls or doors, or you're just not sure-footed, you're flat-footed, there's a million reasons that our stability is compromised. It's a great 30-second thing just to stabilize yourself. Better sleep. Not that any of you suffer from poor sleep. Better sleep's a big one. I didn't know how to simplify this one, but I put bowel and gut in my. Any of you that have ever used a machine for the first time and are not so regular, the number one side effect, besides being itchy, which I know is a question, is you're going to have a pretty good clean out within a day or two. Probably the number one common reason my cerebral palsy and special needs use it is when you live in a wheelchair, you're chronically constipated. For many in our community, we're sitting more than we should be, or we're less active, less movement. So it's a really good way, without having to get onto a whole bunch more meds, to start improving that situation as well. And then just the reduction of stress. And we know all the exercises of the benefits of being active and exercise, but I don't want you to think of this as exercise or working out. It's a bad word. It's like diet. It turns me off personally. So I try to use more creative, welcoming words like managing your stress or gaining energy versus working out. And then of course, working out. So fitness benefits are real. They are there, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. You need to apply yourself. So if you want to lose 100 pounds, I do not care what any medical profession within this community says. You can lose weight. Don't put yourself into that corner. How you lose weight is going to be just as different as how you lose symptoms, but obesity fat can be lost. We can address that first, and then we can see where the rest of it goes. But I've had people have tremendous success with losing weight, but it is a relationship with the food piece, which is actually the harder piece. But managing those when you make one good change and you start moving and feeling better, you tend to, it's contagious. You tend to start taking steps in the right direction, and the food and the peer pressure and all those other things tend to keep you accountable, and the greatest gift I can give you with understanding the machines is it's just going to make you feel better, whatever that translates to for you. So fitness, I will get into a little bit more, and literally it can be 1 to 2 moves. Don't be demotivated by some, I'm going to screw this up, because you don't call them therapists there either. You call them physios, right? Is that better? There's many over there that are probably listening going, Debbie, I have a lot of amazing therapists that I support in Australia. Typically they knew the machines before they knew about lipedema, but it's kind of a given. They move lymph, and there's lots of evidence of that. Why you want to move it is secondary: lymphedema, Derkham's disease, whatever the condition. So the next point, and I'm going to ramble through the points quickly, and I want to give you as much time for questions as possible. Was machine types and key features to consider. I get a little saucy when it comes to machine types, because it's like asking me, what's the best exercise for lipedema? There is no best. There's lots of different ones, and there can be preferences. I am biased because this is all that I do. It's all I've done for 16 years. And I stick with nothing. In my whole life have I never stuck. And I teach people this, neurologists now. So if I can be the leading authority in the world on the machines medically, you guys can totally self-care all day long. You just lack confidence. I've just been doing it longer than most of you. So machine type, what is what are the types? There's 3 basic types, but any type is moving you. Any type of machine is going to move lymph and circulation. What it really boils down to when you're selecting a machine is how it feels. And instead of saving you money and returns and shipping things back, speaking from experience, oscillating, pivotal, side alternating, this is where science again has to bastardize it and give everything 15 names. Machines that move like this, which is what 90% of you are probably using, or at least have this movement. It mimics walking. I personally prefer and do all of my coaching in this movement because there's more to understand, but it's also what 95% of people are using on this planet. It's more functional. It mimics how we walk. It's more accessible. And what I mean, it's for sale in more places at an affordable cost. Self-care does not have to break the bank. And the big thing I struggle with in my group, as I'm sure you guys do in yours, most people don't have a diagnosis. So even if you had a diagnosis and you lived in a country that recognized the diagnosis and your insurance company said, okay, we have a code for a vibration machine, then maybe your benefits would cover it. But there's always a broken link in the chain somewhere. And we have this mentality, and I went on a rant last month in my open house about why wait for self-care? Whether you have a diagnosis or don't have a diagnosis, you're the one that's got to put in the time. You're the one that's got to do the effort. And the machine just happens to be I think a common thread between all these conditions that people can benefit from. It's you personally and how you apply yourself that decide whether you're just going to feel better or lose 50 pounds. So which is best? Whatever you can afford and access at the time. Any machine is better than no machine. Oscillating, as I said, is my preferred movement. There was a lady that messaged me last week from, I don't know if it was Carrie's group, but you guys in Australia have access to more than most places. The market's just a little bit more mature. Usually you can find them on the buy and the sells. You've got the Gumtree over there. Any of those places that, if you're only spending 50 to 100 bucks, go used all day long. I, at the height of my day, owned over 40 different machines. I was testing them, but then I became obsessed and they all had different names. And so I've got a lot of experience, and it all rolls back to why I'm doing what I'm doing is I want to support the masses, not what, some hospital that can afford a grant can, help 10 people with. I want to help the masses. So whatever you're using is going to help you. I will say, if you're not owning a machine or you're considering a machine, lean towards oscillating. The other types, vertical, which is the power plate I talked about earlier, and Vibrogym. Some of the other machines out there refer to it as pulsation. Vertical it's a different feeling. You love it or you hate it. And out of 10 people, 9 don't love it. They prefer the oscillating. It just hits the head differently. The itch is worse. And when I get to the science, there's a big confusion when people are looking. A lot of people say, well, what's the best frequency for this? It depends on which machine. They're like apples and oranges. The other style, which isn't as common, doesn't have as much science, is lateral or horizontal, where the whole surface of the plate goes side to side. I do not like it. It is not my cup of tea, but I'm like old and stuck in my ways. I know what I know, and I learned this one and that one. And keep in mind, I had the best of the best. So the lateral, I have some people that swear by it. There's absolutely no head movement. I find the amount of movement, which we refer the amplitude, is a little mean. But if you're seated, it's, you're moving. When you move, lymph moves. So, if you do have a machine that offers these multiple ways to move, it's just a way to mix it up. Whatever feels best to you for those feel-good applications. So I will never say one is better than the other. I will sit, because I'll have science kicking my ass. I am one of the few people on the planet that is certified on both sides. And the whole industry is, well, we're better than these guys, and these guys, we're better than these guys. And they fight, and they point fingers, and they fearmonger, and all they do is turn people like you away from what might be the best thing you ever got turned away from. So I get very upset with manufacturers, because they're only speaking from one perspective. For those of you that own like medical device pumps, there's a few companies out there. Have you ever called and compared? So let's call Lympha and call Flexi and they fight it, that we're better than them. Same situation with vibration machines, different types of movement. There's very, very few people using both, or, you go with what you first learned, basically. So again, which is best? I prefer oscillating, which I'll explain why more in my demo. Again, it's more functional, it's more affordable, and I just want you guys to get help sooner. So they're cheaper. They actually also, in the long run, have way more benefit and flexibility, but I'll explain that also during the demo. So again, just to wrap that part up, no machine is best. I've rambled. Marianne's going, yeah. Define your goals first. And what I want you guys to do, if you're comparing machines, don't just budget shop. Don't just do what Debbie said. Do a little bit of homework. Everybody's going to have a total opinion. I like my machine the best. You spend 5 to 10 minutes on this thing a day. You develop a loyalty and a relationship with it. So everybody's machine is the best, especially if it's on Amazon, because they always have their recommendations. It gets hard to cipher through it. But I just want you to sit down and be honest about what are you going to be using it for, and be realistic. If you're, everybody has a plan of working out, but if you have never worked out in your life and you just want to feel better, then maybe $100 little machine is really all that you need. Just because you're buying something that costs 10 times more and has way more features, it doesn't come with a bottle of discipline. Just say it, okay? I can't make you get up to the plate, but I can nag you in my group. Make sure that you join. What else? Other things. Where are you planning on using it? This is a really almost more important point than your budget, because I have all these women calling me and going, oh, I got the big fancy, last week was Prime week. Oh my God, in the States, no offense for my Americans, but they all, you're gonna get the best of the best machine, but they weigh 46 pounds. and you want to move it upstairs to your bedroom and use it at night, not going to happen. So think about where you're going to use it. It's probably the most important decision, especially if you're dealing with chronic lifelong issues. You're paralyzed. You know, it's probably not, you're probably going to want to be somewhere seated. I have a lot of kids that even though the whole family is using it, go with a mini model because they're moving it under a lift, and then they're putting it in the bedroom, and then they're putting it by the kitchen counter. So sometimes for the wellness aspects and the self-care, a lighter, more compact machine with less functions and price is, you're going to use it more because you can move it. You know, if you got to go all the way down to the end of the hall to the fitness room and you have to dust it before you go down there every time, you're not going to use it every day. So that's my way of nagging you. Be realistic in where you're going to be using it. The next one, science versus myths and contraindications. I sent Carrie, and I think she got it out via email. If she didn't, my bad. I sent it to her like 20 minutes ago. Here's all these files. Can you make sure everybody gets them?
I did email it out. So hopefully
okay.
people can refer back to it if they haven't seen the email.
Nothing that ever comes out of my mouth is absolute, because today you know something different than you did yesterday. And my whole life has been, okay, this study said this. And then this study said this. And then I started getting involved in studies, and then I started working with doctors, and I realized you have to be curious to be in science and explore self-care. If you don't have any curiosity, you're not going to do any research, you know. And I always say this to my kid: if you're not curious, you know, no wonder you're bored, right? And they've got all these toys. So science versus myths, you know, there is over 1,000 published studies. Nobody's ever been hurt except for one time. They strapped a mouse to a machine for 2 days. Guess what? He didn't do good. It's the only bad study. And these manufacturers highlight the best and they highlight the worst as a sales tactic. So what I can tell you is the benefits of using a vibration machine in conjunction with lipedema, the research does not exist and never will, because both parts are lacking exposure and research. The reason vibration machine study, in my opinion, has stalled is it's natural. It's not profitable to make you better. It's not profitable for you to naturally improve your situation. And until there's a billing code for it and it becomes medically controlled, like most things in Canada and Australia are becoming, unless it's profitable, there is no research money. And I'm being very bold. I was part of a bone density study years ago, using the machines to maintain bone density through chemotherapy with breast cancer. You can't get much more fragile. And the only reason I got involved in the study is, of course, they called and wanted me to donate free equipment. So I would suggest, if you're looking for something specific, does it move lymph? Yes. Does it build bone density? Yes. Does it make you stronger? Yes. You know, benefit associated if you're looking for something specific. But if you're looking for lymphedema moves that are good with vibration machines, it's lacking because they haven't identified the condition. You know, they're more interested in liposuction. They're more interested in laser removal. And you know, I'm not trying to be crass to my doctors out there, but unless there's a billing code for a vibration machine, you know, it's going to be some time before they can bill it at what they need to make it of interest. So for $200 to $300, many of you have discovered it on your own. And for those of you that do have medical plans, usually it's cheaper than your deductible to begin with. If there is a weird disease somebody's got out there, I'll let you leave that till the end. I will address contraindications because they kind of go hand in hand with the science. Contraindications are part of science. Are they absolute? No. You know, there's many things over the years that have dropped off the contraindications. Contraindications of vibration plates are going to be no different than the contraindications of exercise. Should you be exercising? And if you should be exercising, is it weight bearing? Are you not supposed to be weight bearing? Is there certain exercise positions that you shouldn't be doing? Maybe you've had recent spinal surgery and back arches and bridges aren't the way to go. So the only true contraindication when you're dealing with somebody like me, so any of you have a question, I'm your go-to now person. You tag me in your group at Debbie with Debbie, I have kidney stones. Debbie, I'm pregnant, because it all still depends on you personally. I'll start by saying, if you are a regular user, the two contras I'm going to talk about are pregnancy and DVT and blood clots. So pregnancy, if you're a runner and you get pregnant, does your doctor tell you to stop running and walking? Do you need to change how you run and you walk maybe later on in that term? Maybe you need to modify, but they're not going to tell you to stop being active. You may change the velocity depending on your condition and how it progresses. Same with vibration machines. Where I get a little hesitant is when I just found out I'm pregnant. I just found out I have lipedema, and can I use a vibration machine? Too much new and too much learning. Anything that goes wrong throughout the course of that pregnancy is going to be blamed on me, because it's the new and different thing. Just like it must be the lipedema, because it's not understood, right? So if you are an active user now and you happen to become pregnant, there's really no reason, unless your doctor wants you to scale back on your activities for whatever reason, that you shouldn't be comfortable. And the reason I say, if you're using it now, you know about the newbie stuff. It's itchy, it's tingly, you swell, you deflate. You've been through all of that. And when you're pregnant, I don't want you going through all this new weird stuff on top of the other weird stuff you're already going through. If you are pregnant and you happen to have a machine and all of a sudden you're going, dang it, I should have been using that machine. There's ways you can use it, but I would say seated or just mild. I wouldn't be working out on it. Blood clots and DVTs. I'm going to take a pause, because I have never, ever had to talk about these to the extreme frequency as I have in the last 2 to 3 years, partly due to the conditions I'm beginning to deal with. For all my years in vibration machines, every doctor, every therapist, every person I've ever worked with, it is a hard no if you are dealing with active DVT and blood clots. Why? Because vibration machines move circulation and lymph. So do saunas, so does walking, so does jogging. But I have to tell you the risks. Do I have people with DVT and blood clots that don't do what their doctors say and use their vibration machines anyways? Absolutely. I have 11,000 people in my group, chances are. What I ask is, if you have DVT or blood clots, you need to be in tune with your body. If you're not in tune and listening to your body, I can't support you, because you don't understand what might be different. If you have a clot and you're monitoring it and you've been advised to damper your activities, you have to follow your doctor's advice. Within the last year, I have had, for the first time in 16 years, more and more doctors. Oh yeah, go ahead, use your plate. Yeah, no, that's great, move it. I don't know what's changed. I just want to be very vocal, very open with you, because I personally still want to be cautious. If you've been dealing with blood clots your whole life, you know your body, some people do. If this is a new thing, and we are dealing with a community that is prone to bruising and clotting with the disorder to begin with, but if you've got a new lump or a new bump and you're pretty confident it's not a lipoma, just exercise caution. Don't beat it up with your massage gun or your vibration machine. Talk to your doctor first. If you're not sure, and this probably isn't the case in Australia or Canada, but I have many clients in the US and my third world countries that cannot afford to go see their doctor. They can't afford the copay. When you don't have 80 bucks, or you have 80 bucks and it's a matter of feeding your kids or going to see your doctor, there is a test that you can request called a D-dimer. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know that test in this group. It's a common thing, but if you are concerned, a D-dimer can seek evidence of if there is microclotting. It's very common if you've had a stroke recently. It's something that they'll do to see if there's a deeper level or reason for concern. So in my experience, you don't know what you don't know. So when we get into blood clots, kidney stones, all of these things, a lot of times they crop up throughout the course of using a machine and you didn't even know you had it. Reach out. There's always one-offs, and I'll leave it at that. The contraindications change because science wakes up. But again, the only real precautions is if you're pregnant, use common sense with your activity levels. And that's not, you don't start a weight loss program when you get pregnant, although mentally we sometimes think that. And same with if you had a recent medical issue, you know, it really is just understanding how to modify how to use the tool for your current situation. And that includes the hip replacement question. I'll get into that here shortly too. So other than that, I rambled and got a little upset about the science. I'm sorry. Surgery is more profitable than improving yourself naturally. That's my last point there. Okay. Proper techniques for using a vibration plate. Just out of the few I can see here, I know Marianne for sure. And I think Prue, I'm pretty sure you're a member of my group. Is everybody here using a machine? No? No, you're not? Is everybody using a machine? No? Put your hands up if you're using a machine. Oh, you tend to be more progressive in Australia, just saying. More people have heard about it there. And are most of you using it to manage symptoms? I would say.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay,
I would
okay.
say so, just from the feedback that we've had in our group in terms of the sorts of comments that people are, you know, just trying to get lymph moving.
Is there a chat one? Oh, look I don't have the chat button open. Okay, now I'm going to get to a little bit of a show you how. So for some of you, it's going to be, oh, Debbie's going to talk like the same as she always does, because a lot of it is repeat. What I use as far as guidelines and guidance for a machine, my head's cut off, isn't it?
That's okay.
I never know how it's going to come out on Zoom here. I might have to move back just a bit. Hang on. I'm in my little sugar shack here. We're going to start seated anyways. Okay. So this is a common machine for any of you who watch me in my group. The first thing I do is ditch my shoes. So common question number 1, do I wear shoes on a vibration plate? It's kind of up to you, to be honest. I prefer not, but I'm always walking around in bare feet. If I have to put on socks or pantyhose, I need to get out like a cheese grater. I live in my feet. And as far as functional training, which is what I like to talk about, we weren't born with shoes. You know, 3,000 years ago, we used to walk and ground and poop in the forest, and we weren't born with shoes. That being said, many of you have required insoles, inserts, and if you're just starting out, I recommend starting as you are. So if you do have orthotics or something that you're required to be wearing, then just do what's natural. You can experiment and progress. The reason I prefer bare feet when you are comfortable is it kind of forces the muscles in your feet to do their job. And shoes, to a degree, depending on the settings that you're using, absorb a bit of the stimulation. And many of you have the cankles and we have the neuropathy and the varicose veins. I want you to get as much direct stimulation, and that means socks, bare feet, especially certain times of the year for you guys. Like it gets to be 30, 40 Celsius. I hope you're not wearing socks and running shoes. And you need to do your vibing early in the day because it's too hot later in the day in your summer. I know that. So I'm going to do this little demo in oscillating. So lesson number 1. You are always in control in oscillating. And the reason I do my sessions in oscillating and prefer you use this style is there's 2 ways you can modify based on what feels best for you. So when your feet are really close to the middle, you are in the least amount of movement zone. Think like a teeter-totter. If you put 1 foot wider, you can see how much more my leg is shaking on this side versus this side. So the intensity or the strength of the vibration is controlled by how far apart or how close your feet are to the center, not a speed, not a setting, not a frequency. And if you're dealing with deficiencies, you're scared to death, you're not able to bear weight, start with your feet closer to the center. Many of you have heard in my sessions, I don't like to start slow. Slow is the wrong term. This isn't a treadmill or an elliptical. Slow in the form of a speed is not the best way to use your machine starting out. I want you to couple those close feet with a mid to higher speed range. The really slow speeds on this type of machine are very wobbly, very jarring. They're supposed to be. They are balance and stability speeds. And balance and stability is kind of just a side benefit. You're always going to get better movement, better balance and stability because your body is ever stabilizing itself in this surface. But the really slow speeds can be jarring, especially if your feet are too wide. So I want you to start with your feet closer to the center, and a mid speed is not only going to give you more movement, move more lymph and circulation in less time, but it's going to feel smoother. It's going to be more comfortable. For those of you that are not able to progress beyond seated, everything we're doing right here is just what I would call feel good, self-care, wellness. You can add your hands to your knees. For those of you that are not able to stand, you're not going to be getting down on the ground anytime soon. There are ways you can use this to get more effect to the upper body. Conditions aside, you're women. You have tension in the neck and the shoulders because that's where we carry our stress and our bra straps and our purse and our kids. So we tend to carry tension in these areas. And what happens when we get stimulation from the machine in those areas is we guard and protect. We resist, we fight it. Just relax. Take your elbows, if you're able, and rest them on the knees, and you'll feel a little bit more movement up to the neck and the shoulders. If it's too shaky, bring the feet closer together. If it feels good and you want more action, widen up the feet. Play around with this in a seated position if you're just starting out, just to get a feel for it before you commit to standing, okay? Other variations, and I do sessions once a week on Facebook for a couple of different companies, and I do lives in my group, but any exercises that you're supposed to be doing, seated in a chair, maybe it's leg raises, maybe it's seated calf raises, stretches. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. All that a vibration plate is an environment that provides less impact to your body than other traditional activities. It provides more benefit to static positions. So if you're doing something like a squat, you're going to get more benefit by doing the squat on the machine because you're always getting this circulation and lymph piece. What it also makes you do, and I know my head's cut off, I'll adjust here in a second, but if you're doing something like a squat, what I recommend is starting without moving up and down your positions, whether you're standing or you want to do a bit of a squat, but it's going to work the muscles without you having to move your joints. So you can get a lot more muscular activity, a lot more strength, all those type of things going without taxing the joints. And if you can push yourself to fatigue faster, you're also furthering the equation. So feel good use, this kind of rolls into the how long and how often piece, but I have to be very careful. Most manufacturers recommend no more than 30 minutes a day. So when I'm talking with your care providers and they say, well, how often and how long is Carrie allowed to use your vibration machine? I say, well, it depends. If Carrie's just using it for feel good and moving lymph and managing her symptoms, and it's helping, I don't care if you use it 10 times a day, but it might just be for a couple, 3 minutes. The feel good and the self-care piece is going to look different for everybody based on your symptoms and your lifestyle. So if you're away during the day and you've only got limited access, you might do 10, 15 minutes in the morning, and you might do 10, 15 minutes in the evening. If you have access to your machine throughout the course of the day, you might be doing more. But if you're using your machine more often, I would like to suggest shorter sessions. Trying to get a little bit closer here so I can get more of my head on the camera. Okay. I have all these other things that I'm trying to keep out of your sight. I've got red lights, I've got compressions, I've got so much stuff around here. So The difference between feel good and fitness, as I said a little bit earlier, is simply applying yourself. So standing on a machine for the first time, remember that lesson. Feet closer to the center if it's scary. If you need something to hang on to, perhaps a chair, something just to stabilize yourself. Sometimes putting it by a wall isn't the best equation because there's nothing to hang on to. The back of a couch. Balance will improve very quickly. So if you don't have a machine with handles, you're going to improve quicker because your body's kind of having to rely on itself. If you are using a machine with handles, don't hang on for dear life and go beyond, just hold it for stability, but don't go beyond your range of motion. So the biggest difference between feel good and fitness is this versus this. Okay, if you guys want to lose weight, you want to get stronger, you want to build your bones, it does not need to be a whole big workout. Just working within your own range of motion, doing a couple of squats instead of just standing there is slowly going to start not only building strength and engaging more muscles in the quads, it's going to make getting lower eventually easier. And eventually you can get down and do other things. Again, you are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. This is just an environment that gives more benefit and reduces the time that you need to spend doing the self-care and the fitness. So I don't know if anybody's tried this. I remember the first time I was talking to a doctor about sitting on a machine, he almost freaked out. Why would you sit on the machine? I've never seen a protocol. I have little kids that are very constipated. And when they only weigh 20 pounds, it's easy for mom or dad to pick them up and put them on the machine. For you guys, range of motion is required. Not the getting down, but it's the getting back up. Many of you in this community, I am humbled with the flex, hypermobile joints suck, but your range of motion and desire to get down on the ground and put your body directly on this machine is commendable. I wish half of my little size 2 fitness models had half your discipline. Why do you want to get down on the machine? This is a wellness position. This is just another way to move lymph. It's a lazy way to move lymph. By sitting on the machine, it just gets the stimulation a little closer to these areas directly, the hips, the back. You can get a little upper body going if you tuck your hands under your legs. Experiment. If range of motion allows you to get down here, I've done a number of sessions on massage. I could talk for 2 hours just on different ways to massage. There is no can't do. It really, again, I want to stress, it depends on your ability to get down on the ground and back up. And any of these positions, from a feel good perspective, 30 seconds to a minute is really all that you need. For fitness, depending on the goals, something like a squat, I could probably do for 2 to 3 minutes, but I do trade shows all day long. What I would prefer is for your fitness positions, because of what you guys are dealing with, I want you to try and fatigue within 30 seconds to 1 minute. So in your squat, if you're finding 30 seconds to a minute, it's easy and you can keep going, try going lower. Maybe you're ready for some dynamic movement. Maybe we need to add accessories to change the position and make it more challenging. Again, you are only limited by your imagination. One last little tip that I have to go over for those of you that are able to do upper body positions. I know you want to get rid of this, right? Okay. Even I have it if I don't tone it up. So upper body is just like lower body. You are always in control. So wide is more shake, closer is less shake. The other real tip, regardless of what kind of machine you're using, is your angles. So just like in the angles of the squat, there's angles in a push-up, but I want you to make sure when you're on the machine, instinctively we line our head up above our hands like we would on the floor. Push your body just slightly forward so that the shoulders are above the hands, and 95% of the head shake, which is not harmful. It just takes some getting used to, and you like it or you don't. But if you put your shoulders above the hands, you're not going to feel anything in the neck and the shoulders. If you come back an inch or two, you'll feel the difference in what I mean. So I'm on my knees. This isn't necessarily, you know, sometimes a fitness position is feel good. You're just trying to engage these muscle groups. If I was doing fitness, for me, I would be something like this, okay? Where your starting point is really depending on you. But from a feel-good perspective, if you've never done a push-up in your life and you're able to get down here, I want you, just like when we were sitting, I want you playing with wider hands, closer hands, change the angles of your hands. When you're standing on the machine, your heel is the point of contact that transfers it up through your body. Same with the heel of your hand. So if your hand, the heel of your hands are closer together, you're moving less. If they're out on the outer edges, you've got the most movement. So get used to how a position feels, where you feel the vibration, what speed feels good. And with this one, if you're just starting out, you've got weak shoulders and arms, just start on the knees and get used to getting the lymph and the circulation moving before you make it harder. Make yourself a little longer, and then eventually, of course, you can move up to toes and progress from there. Just a variation. And again, in my group, I've got just upper body videos, just lower body. A lot of the stuff that I've done shows you from those that barely can start right up to those that are maybe doing athletic training. Another reason a lot of you are using a vibration plate, this isn't necessarily to replace everything that you do. I love combining a vibration machine with other things. It's a great complement not only to other therapies, but maybe other exercises that you are doing. Hang on, I'm gonna kill my lights a bit here. It's getting a bit toasty. There. For those of you that are going to the gym, the pool is a really popular one for many of you. You know, maybe it's a minute or two on the machine before you go to the pool, or maybe it's a couple of minutes for recovery afterwards. Maybe you are recovering from surgery and a hip replacement, and you're unable to do all of your normal exercises. You can still do certain things to not only help expedite the recovery, but to help manage the symptoms. You know, especially if you've been using a machine for a long time, you'll notice when you are forced to take a break, you'll miss it. You'll miss how easily it got that lymph and everything else moving for you. And again, I can't say that you shouldn't speak with your doctor, but common sense does apply. If you're able to be active, you know, it may just be a matter of modifications. So when can you do these types of things as a post-surgery situation? Really depends on your recovery. I don't like to put an actual number on it. One of the things that I kind of always have in the back of my mind with many of you, because many of you do have surgeries, is that scar tissue. Scar tissue develops within up to 4 weeks post-surgery. So anything you can do to keep things moving is going to help reduce and mitigate. But it boils, you know, if you've broken both of your shin bones, of course, I don't want you wobbling on the machine. But a lot of times if you've had an injury on one side or the other, what's wrong with the good leg? You know, if you're hopping around making a sandwich on one leg and you've had, you know, a hip replacement on the other side, you could stand on one leg. So there's all kinds of ways I can help you guys modify if you are in a post-surgery situation, if you've had a setback with your recovery, or maybe you're just too shy to ask questions in front of the group. So I want to make sure I covered contras. I have to bring up the itchy. I didn't talk about.
I was about to ask about the itchy. I've had a couple of people ask that question actually.
The itchy is a common question. I think it's probably a little more prominent in these types of groups because of the sluggish lymph, if you will. But itchiness is a common everybody thing. And Ironically, sometimes the slimmer you are, the worse the effects, because the body's, doesn't have as much to absorb. So it's all my little skinny gals, the fit gals that are, oh my goodness, what is this itchiness? It's driving me crazy. So you may even notice a redness or pins and needles on the surface. Marianne and I have a little bit of a history on the itchiness. There is the odd extreme antihistamine response for those of you dealing with POTS and some of those conditions. If you tend to break out when you exercise, you're gonna have, this is the same thing. It just happens a little sooner because we have more effects in less time. So if you break out in hives when you exercise and it's a week or two before you get over it, maybe you want to take an antihistamine or whatever your normal go-to is before you use the machine. It's not a don't use. But if you didn't hear that and you had hives and you broke out, I'm sorry. It's not a common thing, but we have had a few in the group, probably about 5 or 6 over the few years. What I will say is it's usually the itchiness and the hives are usually worse with overuse. So you're on this thing, oh, it's feeling so good. Next thing you know, you watch like the entire Gladiator movie, you've been shaking 2 hours. If the itchiness is really bad and you like totally can't stand it, reduce the foot distance and reduce the time, and give it a few sessions, but it will dissipate 99% of the time within a week or two. If you take an extended break, so if you go on holidays or you take surgery or, you're not using your machine so regularly, and then you get back into it with, that same veracity, the itchiness does sometimes come back too, but it goes away. If you don't understand that or don't know that, it's where's my coffee? It's a bit of a common spook, especially if someone hasn't warned you. The good news about this, and even though everyone talks about it being lymph and circulation, this is a small group. I remember the first time that I experienced the itchiness very severely was with a 3-year-old that was a quadriplegic, and his legs and his feet and his quads. And the doctor said, well, it's not possible. And I said, well, then why is it happening? It is also neurological stimulation. So when nerves aren't talking so good or scar tissue has severed things, there is absolutely no scientific research or study. There's too many variables, but I see it again and again and again. Same reason I see improvements with neuropathy. My stepmom has very, very severe diabetes. She developed 2 black toes literally overnight. After about 3 months of the vibration machine and some red light therapy, they're completely pink. They're not even wrinkled. Like even the doctor, they canceled her home care last week. I'm so excited, but we don't tell them anything because then it's just this, well, what are you doing? Are you going to physical therapy? Or she gets too stressed out. For her, she uses the machine 3 to 4 times a day. She uses the light when she's watching her TV. I think sometimes where the success with these machines and the long-term benefits are, you get into an easy routine, and it's the consistency of doing it regularly that's going to win that race. Whatever your goals are, whether they're just managing self-care or you're looking at some fitness goals, it's the consistent regular use. So I don't want anybody ever beating themselves up. Oh, I didn't work out today. Oh, Debbie's check-in Monday and I don't have anything to say. Use it to just feel good, even if it's just minimally, and the workout will come when you guys are feeling better. Okay. Let's get to some questions. I know that I've probably talked away your whole bloody hour. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's been so interesting. I'm itching to get to my vibration plate because I really have just used it to either have my feet on it when I'm watching something on TV or just stand on it. I guess I realized from this conversation that there's a lot that I could be using this vibration plate for that I'm not getting the benefit from.
I think it's you guys are a victim of, there's so many things that are trying to be sold and marketed to you that it's overwhelming between just keeping track of your own stuff and your family stuff that so even me, I was doing an upper body session the other day, and there's this one stretch that I used to do all the time. And I probably haven't done it in about 3 years. And I'm like, how did I forget about that stretch? Like, we become creatures of habit. And I myself, because I deal with so many more medical issues, I tend to be not as good about pushing my workouts, the muscle. I was a bridesmaid last weekend, and although I was thin, I was disappointed looking at myself. Where's my biceps and where's my shoulders? I didn't add the weights as much as I normally would have. I did my moves, but I didn't push myself. You know what I mean? So I was nice and thin, like I say, but the definition, I'm 50 now. So as we get older, even though you're dealing with these conditions, it's, atrophy is not the right word, but that plumpness, once you hit about 70, 80, you just don't get the same, you can lose all the weight you want, but the muscles themselves, the definition, the size starts depleting, and the machines are very, very good at recovering and expediting that. So, it really, the machine isn't going to change who you are. It's not going to turn you into a workout person. It's going to complement who you are. So if you weren't a big gym guru before you got your vibration machine, it's not going to turn you into that. Pick something simple, 2, 3 really good exercises. We've all got a few that we do better than others. There's always a few that we avoid at yoga class. I'm getting flashes these days. And for me, when I stop using the machine in my consistency, that's when I start noticing the skin getting soft, the varicose veins start, how it's going to benefit you is not going to be exactly the same as it is for me or Marianne, but you will improve in some way, shape, or form. And if I can just get you guys moving and feeling better, the rest of it and life just becomes a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah.
And I'm here to fight for you with doctors too, because I'm done asking for permission. I've had this group 4 years. There's lots of alternatives out there. And my big theme this year is you don't need a diagnosis to care for yourself, and in a lot of cases, it can cause more time and frustration. There's a lot of amazing doctors out there, but the really, really good ones in this community, they're not taking new patients. They're overwhelmed with the amount that they do have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I covered all of your stuff other than
just going back to the DVT one, the question about DVTs, if you don't have an active DVT, so it's something that you had, say, 5-10 years ago, then there's no reason from what you're saying that you couldn't test.
As long as there's no, you don't have some big 4-inch lump that's developed on your shin overnight. If you've had DVT in the past, I would assume you have related experience of again, listening to your body. If something just doesn't feel right, you're winded, there's different symptoms when you're dealing with a clotting disorder. And one of them is onset of sudden fatigue, joint and muscle soreness, localized soreness. If something has changed, a shake or two on your machine isn't going to do anything. And I've had some very, very severe blood clots, some which to me, the machine's kind of a diagnostic tool. I know my clients and I know my regulars, and when something's different about them, it's not uncommon. I'm calling the doctor and saying, get over here. I have had a client lose speech on a machine, and the doctors are trying, oh yeah, she's fine to go back to work. No. I need you to come over and see this. So with something like a blood clot, whatever symptoms have presented in the past, just have that radar on in the back of your mind. And again, it's not the machine, but because there's this association with shaking, the more common question I get is this gonna harm my brain? Well, maybe I've been doing it 16 years and a lot of people think I'm pretty crazy, but my daughter was on these machines from the time I conceived, like her. And it was one of those, I've been doing it 4 or 5 months. I'm telling everybody it should, but I didn't know for myself. And a lot of my confidence comes from self-experimentation on myself and my sister's children. So a lot of all my kids are very healthy. I'm very blessed that way, but I do deal with a lot of very intricate special needs as young as 6 months. And I have a lot of very good neurosurgeons that I work with post-surgery. And I mean, I'm putting these kids on machines 2 months post-spinal fusion. So I think you guys are okay to experiment a little bit. And the worst you're going to do is going to be the same as if you over exercised. So if you overdo something new, well, how does it present on you? Are you sore the next day? Are you all swollen? Are you in bed for 3 days? It's easy to overdo the machines because they do feel so good. If that's what you've done, get back on the horse for a minute or two, and it'll less is more. It'll help you recover from that too. So, but everybody overdoes it once or twice, right? And it's usually massage. Once you get that butt down there and you're going to do your 10 minutes, and sometimes you're a little jello-y the next day.
No, that's all. It's all good advice. Cherie asked the question about what brand do you recommend that's effective, easy to use, and not super expensive. I know you kind of talked about that earlier in the call, though. Is that something that she can just reach out to you?
There's two types. So there's the medical grade, and there's a couple. You guys have medical performance grade in Australia, but you're looking in Australia dollars. You're starting at about 1,500 and up. And the support that when you're dealing with a niche product, you probably all have experience with that. The consumer machine, so everything else out there, two big brands that I don't necessarily recommend, but are similar to what I use. The one brand I recommend in North America and the UK is Life Pro. I wish there was one brand that sold everywhere, but am I biased to a degree? Yes, because I do videos for them every week. So what I like about Life Pro is they invest in education. Most companies send you a booklet. What is very similar in Oz and New Zealand, most machines are the same machine, different sticker. There is no engineering. Any guy that tells you that they invented and designed at the factory, no. I could get the Deb vibe as long as I'm willing to, order a container. There's very little engineering going on. It's just duplication of the existing Chinese models. And they have about half the performance of the medical grade devices. Medical grade would go much faster. So in a frequency world, the actual speed is frequency. Most your Pinties, Bluefin's another brand that you guys can get in Australia. The Azu Fit or Isuzu Fit. I know it's not Isuzu, but you've got some pretty good options on eBay. You shouldn't be spending more than about 200 bucks Australian on a basic brand new oscillating. What I recommend comparing is who's got the best warranty. Very similar machine. You guys know you can come to me for instructions, so you don't need that from them. But motor size, bells and whistles, none of that is really as important as who's going to take care of me if something goes wrong with it. So compare warranties is the best way. Even if you're spending 20, 30 bucks more to maybe get a year or two. The reason I recommend Life Pro in many of my videos and in the UK is they have a lifetime warranty. So if you break it, they replace it. So I don't get a lot of phone calls. For years when I was dealing with medical devices, I think I fixed and serviced more machines than I did use. So, sometimes when you're investing in let's say medical grade equipment, you are in some instances getting better performance, but a lot of cases what happens with medical grade is you're going to need different instruction. So if you are looking at investing in a medical grade plate, whether it's a power plate, a Hypervibe, a Galileo, there's only a handful of them out there, get on the phone with them and hold them accountable. If you're spending $12,000, $14,000 on a machine, you deserve some damn support and some guidance. You shouldn't have to be calling me. The number one call I get for support is for people who bought a medical grade machine. The physios, the doctors, and half of them are like, okay, my clients with lipedema are coming in and telling me how to use this machine. Because you guys do your homework. You invest in your care. And whether it's time watching me ramble or reading, the sooner you just start experimenting with what's collecting dust in your corner, the sooner you're going to learn. A lot of everything I've learned has been from trial and error. And I just want to share my experience so you hopefully have a better one.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. Katrina's asked, how long after eating can I vibrate? Is it better to do it on an empty stomach? Does it matter?
That's a swimming myth, isn't it? If you have a sensitive gut and if you wanted to look into the science of whether you should exercise after eating, half of the science world says that you should save that energy and divert it to the activity of digestion. If you're too active after you've eaten and your body's trying to divert half of your mitochondrial activity to exercise, you might have indigestion issues. I read that one recently. I don't know if I buy that one or not. I personally, I don't do a damn thing when I eat. I like to sit and I have my coffee and I do nothing for an hour or two. Some people, that's their go-to. A lot of my clients with IBS or just gut health issues find it aids in digestion. So in those instances, I suggest experimenting, try it for 2 or 3 sessions, not vigorously after, but if you want to help with just getting a little bit of lymph and circulation going, see how you feel. And if it's not for you, you should know within a session. If you got, acid reflux coming back or something, more so people find it aids in digestion. Just keep it light.
Oh, that's good information. I'd never really thought about whether I should have eaten or not. So thank you to Katrina for
I don't really, I like to eat. I'm a German, and usually it's bread covered in things it shouldn't be. And I literally, just before coming here, I wolfed back 2 chicken breasts and some broccoli. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. A lot of people, Debbie, how did you get slim? It really is just the vibration machines. I used to be a pretty big drinker back in my day. So I don't do that as much as I used to. And I homeschool a 12-year-old girl. So I'm active in my day to begin with, but a lot of it is I don't eat breakfast. If I'm hungry, I eat. I just make sure it's of quality. And the sooner I stopped, and I know this is maybe a little disrespectful to some of you, but the sooner I stopped like stepping on the scale and counting my calories and driving myself crazy, the less I found I cheated. And the more I found I just started making better choices versus having to put a number on anything, because we know what's good for us and what's bad for us. And there's some really good groups out there, and many of you are dealing with sensitivities. So for me, last weekend, I was a bridesmaid. I knew not only was I going to be walking in 6-inch stilettos, I would probably have a few more cocktails than normal. So I made sure that I did have a little bit of bread, just to offset. And I knew I was probably going to have a sore knee for a few days because I never did get the replacement that I was supposed to years ago. So just like you guys, if you're going out and you're going to do what you're going to do and you're going to pay the price, just plan for it. Give yourself a day or two. Instead of beating yourself up and feeling guilty, just plan for it and embrace it. And I think you'll find that the less you beat yourself up and you devote to a higher energy, the more these other things will fall into place too.
Yeah, I think that's some really wise counsel.
I'm getting a little philosophy there.
You mentioned something, and I know this isn't something that we said we were going to talk about, but you mentioned before about red light therapy, and we've had a couple of questions in our local group. So maybe do you want to just like in a couple of minutes just tell us a
crash
little
course
more about red light therapy.
My group has evolved. There's a lot of things I used to do when I was a studio. I just don't tell these companies everything until, I need to, if you will. Otherwise, that's all the Facebook messages would be. Red light therapy is probably the #1 complement to what I do. What I love about red light therapy is it can be healing. And it can also offer and expedite some of the fitness stuff too. But because this community has a mentality that heat is bad for me, for some of you it is. There's a disassociation with light therapies, and I'm going to take it beyond red light therapy because there's pink, there's blue, there's amber. When you take the sunlight and you split it into different spectrums, there's different benefits associated. And the 2 big ones that I support in my group are red light and infrared. Call me crazy. I know infrared saunas are probably not on every street corner in Australia, but infrared and red light have different purposes. So red light is good for skin surface conditions. Maybe you're dealing with lesions, you're expediting healing, pain, sensitivity. Infrared goes more below the surface, and it's a little bit more associated with some of the weight loss and pain, joint pain management. Interestingly enough, I started talking about red lights probably about 2 years ago. And there's a big void in the community as far as understanding how it might help with lipedema. But just like vibration machines, again, there's going to be research lacking. There's a ton of research supporting red light. The main function it does is it boosts your mitochondria function. So the powerhouse of your cells, it makes them do their job better. Whatever that job is, whether it's healing, whether it's managing pain, reducing inflammation. Red light, the harder part of it is there's so many damn choices out there. There's little pens, there's paddles. Look, Marianne's gonna freak out. I just got this today, this huge, massive panel.
Lovely.
So
yeah,
just like vibration machines, what are you going to be using red light for? If it's to treat this little knuckle with arthritis, probably a little pen or a glove or something. But if you want lymphatic stimulation, red light is amazing at lymphatic and circulation. And I would use it back in my studio days. Sometimes people aren't quite ready or the pain is too severe to use the machine. It would bridge the gap for me. But I also got into the fat thing. So I want to lose fat. I want to lose inches. I went through that whole market cycle and the whole damn thing came back. Yes, you can lose weight with red light, but you need to do activity after the treatment. You got to help the lymph move. Part of it is that it accelerates, it excites the mitochondria, but it's also, it aids in detoxification. So do the machines. It's one is not better than the other. Again, be realistic. What are you going to use? If you've never gone for a walk and you've never set foot in a gym and you have absolutely no intention of getting out of the recliner, red light is perfect because you can just sit it beside you, or there's wearable types. But if you are using a vibration machine, you can use them. A lot of my gals use them at the same time. So they'll have their panel going while they're doing their machine, just to accelerate the benefits of both. So combining therapies is going to give you more lymph, more circulation. Red light, you can't really overdo. Your body's only going to take what it needs. It's not the physical stimulation that the machine is. And the other big appeal with red light is it's just as good for your pets as it is for you. Pets do not see the same spectrum of light that we do. So if you're using red light for the first time, or any color visual lights, you should wear protective eyewear. Your dog does not have to wear sunglasses, nor does your cat. I have a lot of people that message me and go, oh my God, my cat's always walking in front of the light. Now, this is going to blow your mind, and I have to be very careful. I'm not a doctor, don't diagnose, don't treat, but I sit mine beside me because I'm really not mindful. And I would, so if I set it up beside me and I just have my littler one cast upon me, and my eyes are getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Everybody says it's menopause. I'm not sure. But I personally, and a number of ladies in my group, have noticed vision improvements. Now, I'm not suggesting you look. There's a lot of laser clinics. There's a lot of people making bucks, fixing eyes with lights. So if the light of the sun is giving us health benefits, why wouldn't replicated artificial sunlight offer us similar benefits? So there's lots of reasons yet to be explored, but there's probably 10,000 times the studies for red light as there is for vibration machines. So it's been out there a long time. It's absolutely safe. The only contraindications with any light therapies are just be careful if you're photosensitive. You may or may not be photosensitive, but a lot of medications you take make you photosensitive. So it still doesn't mean you can't use them. Tanning beds and those type of things have taken a really bad rap. We need vitamin D, we need magnesium, we need these things to make calcium work with our bones. And so tanning beds are fine, but it was the UV spectrum, the light spectrum, that is the harmful one, the one that colors our skin. So moderation, I have one of those too. But the UV spectrum is not present in red light therapies. That's why you can't really overdo it. If you do overdo it, it's just going to be warm. Like, no, you shouldn't go in a sauna for 2 hours. That's a common sense thing. But, if you're starting with a sauna where you're expediting heat, you know, just like the machine, start out conservatively, go 10, 15 minutes more often and see how you tolerate the heat. But I'm having a lot of ladies, very surprisingly, in the group that were freaking out about the heat thing, but they have no problem at all with infrared. So something to check out. There's a lot more affordable options than when I got into those back in the day too. And infrared saunas were also something I always had in my studio. The new ones are just cheaper, and there's just more of, there's more manufacturers. So it's, you know, as the technology evolves, and I hate to say it goes to China, it just becomes more accessible and more affordable to you. I'm going to touch briefly, because we're talking about lights. The number one question I get about light therapies and vibration machines lately is, what are the EMFs? I'm EMF sensitive. What are the EMFs? Oh, and 20 things just fell out. If you're EMF sensitive, then you don't understand when you're asking me what is the EMF ratings, that EMFs are not one thing. There are several spectrums. Anything with electricity emits EMF. You are an electrical being. You emit EMFs in the form of vibration. We're all electrical. And we live in a world where we are being saturated with EMFs. So everybody's talking about EMFs. I had a lady the other day, and if this is any one of you, I apologize, but I'm going to defend my big red light sauna. I have EMF meters. I do a lot of testing for these companies. And I can assure you, the window fan next to your sauna is emitting more EMFs than your damn sauna. And if you're calling me on your wireless earbuds and talking on your cell phone at the same time, I can guarantee you're contributing to your own inflammation. Don't talk to me about my saunas and my vibration, but this is how manufacturers plant seeds. Oh, we've got better EMFs than they do, or we've got zero EMFs. I had a company tell me that last week. And I said, really? I would like to see the engineer's report, please, because it's impossible. If there's electricity flowing through it, it's not zero. EMFs are something you can't get away from in today's world. Your TV emits them, your dryer, your street lights, all these cell phone towers. It's the cumulative effect. And what too much EMF does to your bodies more than other people's is it excites those blood cells and it gets them moving, and it coagulates your blood. It changes it to a positive charge. So if you're a cell phone junkie, give your body time, or at least don't leave it on your body. Turn it off at night, throw it in a bread box. That's what I do. Don't worry about your half-hour sauna unless you've got 20 other things going around you. It's the ongoing continual exposure, not the 20, 30-minute therapeutic treatment. And I've actually had a doctor tell me that surgery is better than saunas because they're just too high in EMFs. Okay. I'll be using the sauna to recover from the surgery. So I get a little passionate. I'm a big advocate when it comes to certain technologies. Everything in my home is wired. I'm very electrosensitive, which EMFs are ranked the same as an environmental pollutant in Canada. They're on the same level as asbestos. So if you're not aware of these facts, come on over to my place. I'm in the middle of a big fight with a cell phone company these days, and some tower they want to put about a block from my house. But none of these technologies are insurable from a health perspective, so they probably aren't very good for your body. So just mitigate your exposure. I like my cell phone. My daughter likes her iPad, but we place it away from our body. We don't put it on our body. If you're using wireless earbuds or those types of devices, keep it to a half an hour. If you're using your sauna, it's not a threat. So, but if anybody does want to see reads, I will have some video. I do videos all the time on many products. High EMFs are usually signs of poor craftsmanship. So I've got about 5 or 6 different saunas. Some of them have higher EMFs than others. Is it any surprise that the $50 sauna has more EMFs than the $3,000 sauna? Different craftsmanship. But you know what? The benefit you're going to get from a healing perspective by far outweighs the minimal exposure that you're going to get. Just don't add to it. So any 1 or 2 on their own is never the problem. It's you're in your sauna, you got 16 Bose speakers and the baby monitor and the wire. it's too dense, that you've densified too much. That was way off tangent, Carrie, but
well, no,
hope that
it's
kind of
always
answered it.
it's
I
always
got to do an EMF session one day, but then I'll have like no doctors talk to me, but soon.
It's always interesting to think about different aspects of our health, and certainly hearing that infrared, infrared saunas, red light therapy. We've just had a couple of companies here in Perth start to offer like red light pods, so you can go to a clinic and do them.
You can go try one. A lot of the float tank places seem to be getting the red light beds. They're very expensive to go use commercially. So a commercial grade vibration machine is 15 grand, a home one, but some of the like this panel here, I think this one will probably retail for about 400. My favorite one, and the company that I do this for, this is my favorite out of all the lights that I have. It's a cheesy little clip because I sometimes I travel or sometimes I'm here, and it's just, I clip it to like a bookshelf on the edge. So, a lot of times, like the machine, when you're looking at a red light, what are you using it for? Is it whole body? Are you a caregiver where you need to be hands off? Can you be holding it? All these things come into effect. And it's not always the most expensive one. They're all things are so safe and so certified nowadays. I've never had a red light blow up or melt, or I've never had any concerns like that.
I think it's all just really interesting because, our lipedema community, it's a grassroots movement, isn't it? People start using things like infrared saunas or red light therapy or vibration plates or different dietary interventions. And we're learning from the grassroots up. So anything that we hear about in a conversation like this, we can start thinking about, we can experiment. People come back and share their experience, and then we'll know, oh, this helps, this doesn't help, that sort of thing. I think, the water exercise came because people started to talk about all the benefits they had. And so, we need to be having these conversations. So we're incredibly grateful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Some people have had a bad experience with a vibration. Sometimes who you were at the time has changed as well, or the approach has changed. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know if that's a big expression you use there, but just, the number one, we're all proud about, something that we're good at. For me, the one thing I'm more proud about with these machines than anyone is my ability to get people to give it another try. Even if it was I have had people have bad experiences on machines, but a lot of times it was just too much, the feet too wide. You take on more than we have a tendency, in this community. You guys don't do anything half-assed. If you're going to try something, you dive in and you commit, because there's been so many disappointments. You've tried this and it didn't work out. You want to find out sooner than later if this is going to work for you. And what might not have worked 5-10 years ago might be worth revisiting. So when people contact me about, I want to sell my machine, I'm not using it. Is it because you just need some help? Did it hurt you? And those type of things and fear really play a big part. If you're not the last thing that you guys need is to hurt more. And if you've had a bad experience, it has shied some away. Same with red lights, if you overdo it with red lights, which it's pretty hard to do, you're tired. You do, like when you over detox, like you could just sleep for days, and that's, oh, the red light's making me tired. Well, no, maybe it's just pointing out that you need good sleep. Your body always puts forth what it needs to a degree. So, and I know I'm an hour and a half into your lovely morning coffee. Were there any other questions, or does anybody have any more questions?
Oh, I can hear Laurie. You need to just unmute yourself and then you can speak.
You do it. Hang on. She doesn't know how.
Hang on.
You can't, Carrie.
Up the top. Give you a picture.
There you go. You're off. Hello, Lori. Maybe just your volume.
No, I can't see anything but the word Zoom in front of me.
Oh,
but we can hear
well,
you.
you know what? I can see and hear you. How are you?
Hi.
What's your question?
I didn't really have a question. Sorry, my husband is having some problems with his diabetes, so I've just kind of got some things I have to do. But
Okay.
Um,
Does he use your machine?
pardon?
Does he
He
use
does
your
use it for his neuropathy. Yes.
Nice, nice. I've done a number of sessions on diabetes. It's a really common co-condition, and yeah, for the blood sugars, for all kinds of things, especially the neuropathy. So if you have other questions later, Lori, don't hesitate to just tag me or reach out, even if it's related
All
to
right.
hubby.
All right. Thank you. I've got to go help him. So thank you.
Oh. So Laurie's leaving. There's a couple of other thank yous in the chat. We've really appreciated your time today. And your link is in the email that I sent out, but I'll send the link out again with the link to the recording of this and those handouts that you sent. And thank you so much. I'm sure you'll find most of us are either in your group or jumping into your group to keep learning about this. So thank you.
Yeah, and be patient if you're requesting a membership. I kind of do them about once a week. I really do. The group's getting big, and I try to spend a little bit of time making sure people are supposed to be there. But Marianne can attest, sometimes people know what you want to hear. So I also hold comments and review each of those. So I am a one-woman show, and I try to make sure if I'm going to approve your question that I have an answer for you right away as well, because usually it's a use-related thing. And if you're not a member of my group, or aren't a big Facebook user, I do put some stuff on YouTube. Not everything. A lot of the stuff in the group is just in the group, and it's not everybody's business. If you are dealing with special needs of any kind, I do have another group specifically. It started out as cerebral palsy, but it's everything now. It's everything that kids and their families might be dealing with, and a lot of the things we talked about here today too.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone that sort of joined us today. And I know a lot will listen in later. And so, like I said, thank you.
Happy
again.
Wednesday. Thank you so much. Anytime, you guys, I'm happy to do this again.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. You enjoy your evening.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.